Discovered, a poor farmer's incredible act exposes a father who bound his 30-year-old daughter. Jake Miller wiped the sweat from his brow, staring out over the fields of corn that had grown thin due to relentless drought. The sun beat down hard on the rural town of Maplewood, but Jake, a humble farmer in his early 40s, stood firm. His ancestors had tilled this land long before him, and the earth was in his blood. Despite the economic challenges, he poured every ounce of his being into the farm, believing that hard work and family could overcome any obstacle. Little did he know, the true test of his resolve was just around the corner. Across the way, his wealthy neighbor Bill Kensington loomed like a dark cloud. Bill's grand house stood in stark contrast to Jake's weathered farmhouse. The town may have envied Bill's success, but Jake's heart often ached for Emily, Bill's daughter. 30 years old and trapped in a gilded cage, she longed for freedom but found herself caged by her father's iron grip. Her face, framed by loose golden hair, often appeared strained, her eyes hinting at the dreams that remained unspoken. As spring ushered in hope, dark clouds rolled through the sky. Without warning, torrential rains flooded the town. Panic gripped the throats of the residents as water surged through the streets, overflowing to capture their homes in a furious tide. But through the chaos, Jake stood unyielding, rallying his neighbors with a heart full of compassion. They worked together, forming human chains to rescue stranded families, each act of bravery igniting a flicker of solidarity in their weary souls. Through it all, Jake's thoughts flickered to Emily. While he organized efforts, glancing at Bill's mansion, he noticed her silhouette through the window, her face twisted in distress as her father barked orders with a voice steeped in authority. She was trapped in the tumultuous storm of her father's expectations, eyes pleading for reprieve. He could feel the weight of her situation, a profound empathy growing within him. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Jake plunged deeper into the rain-soaked streets, a fierce determination blazed in his chest. The more he worked, the more inspired he became, stirring whispers of courage among neighbors who admired his tenacity. But the growing tension drew a line between him and Bill. Jake knew it was time to confront the man whose power had suffocated Emily's dreams for too long. With a pounding heart, he approached Bill, water lapping at his boots. "She deserves more than what you've given her," Jake's voice resonated, urging the crowd to stand behind him. The townsfolk watched, silence wrapping around them as the confrontation unveiled years of hidden pain. Bill's face shifted through expressions: confusion, anger, but finally, a dawning realization. The moment hung in the balance, palpable and electric. Would Bill come to understand the weight of the chains he defastened around his own daughter's spirit? Would hope emerge from despair? Jake stood firm, believing that for Emily, this was just the beginning of discovering the wings she'd been denied. The murmur of the crowd hung heavy in the air. Jake felt the weight of their eyes on him, each one a mix of hope and expectation. His heart raced not only from adrenaline but from a deep-rooted need to make this right for Emily. He locked eyes with Bill, whose surprise slowly morphed into a simmering fury. "What do you know about her life?" Bill snapped, his voice booming against the downpour. "You think her struggles are any of your concern? You're just a farmer. I know what's best for my daughter." Jake clenched his fists, feeling the floodwaters creep closer. "You don't know her at all. You think money and power can buy happiness?" The words poured from him, fueled by years of witnessing Emily's silent suffering. "You've built a wall around her, and those walls are keeping her trapped. She needs love, not control." Bill opened his mouth, anger rippling across his face, but Jake pressed on. "Look at her. How long will you keep her locked away? It's not just about you anymore." As the rain poured down, pounding on the earth like an urgent heartbeat. Something shifted in the air. Slowly, tension filled the spaces between the words, and the first crack appeared in Bill's tough exterior. The crowd shifted restlessly, their breaths caught in anticipation. Would empathy break through the armor of wealth and status? Jake's voice softened, edged with sincerity. She deserves to chase her own dreams, Bill. She deserves to be happy. He paused, glancing behind him at the townsfolk who nodded in support. He felt their collective hope, a gentle nudge that pushed him forward. Then, a sobering silence settled. Bill's eyes flashed, and for a mere heartbeat, a flicker of uncertainty crossed his face. Jake momentarily saw the man beneath the surface, the father who feared losing his only child, the businessman who thought he was protecting her. But that glimpse disappeared as quickly as it came, replaced by a stormy glare. You think you can come here and speak to me like that? You're nobody. They say nothing lasts forever, an unexpected voice piped up from the crowd. It was Mrs. Collins, an older woman with a soft demeanor but a sharp tongue. What's left when you've suffocated everything that's beautiful about her? Bill's face hardened, but the world around him had begun to change. Other townsfolk stepped forward, their voices soft but resolute. We're tired of witnessing Emily suffer in silence. She deserves a chance to choose her own path. Love shouldn't be a prison. With each word, the walls began to crack. Jake felt encouraged, bolstered by the resolve around him. Perhaps they could reach Bill, perhaps they could rally the storms of change. Just then, a faint sound broke through the din, an unmistakable voice. It was Emily, standing on the wraparound porch of her home, drenched from the rain. "Dad!" she called, her voice steady yet laced with an underlying tremor. "Please, listen to him." The sight of her, brave and resolute against the backdrop of the storm, yanked on Jake's heartstrings. The rain mingled with the tears that glistened in her eyes, reflecting the pain she had carried for so long. Defiance and fear danced within Bill, caught in an internal war. But at that moment, the tide shifted again. Would Emily's plea break through the barriers of a father's power? Would she finally take her first step toward freedom? The weight of the moment thickened the air as Jake held his breath, heart hammering loudly, waiting for Bill's response. Would Emily find her wings today, or would the chains rebind her once more? The storm raged on, but internal storms had just begun to unfold. As the crowd hushed, they all leaned forward, pulses sinking with the heartbeat of change. Jake's heart felt like it was going to burst as he held his breath, every eye in the crowd riveted to Bill. The tension was palpable. Even the rain seemed to hush, drenching everything in a heavy silence that pressed against their skin. Bill's expression was unreadable. Anger and exasperation warred with something softer, something buried. He looked at Emily, whose stance was unwavering despite the fear flickering behind her brave facade. "Emily, this is not the time," he managed, his voice thick as the storm around them. "Dad, it's exactly the time," she replied, her voice rising above the rumble of thunder. "I need you to understand. I need to be free to choose." Those words were like a bolt of lightning, illuminating the truth that had been there all along. The crowd erupted in murmurs, a shared breath of relief mixed with anxiety. This was a moment of reckoning, they could feel it in their bones. Jake took a cautious step forward, emboldened by Emily's courage. "Bill, this isn't just your decision anymore. Look around. Everyone here cares for Emily. They've watched her wear a smile that fades when you aren't looking. She deserves a life beyond your control." Bill's gaze flickered to the townsfolk, who were nodding in agreement. The stunned expressions of the people he knew, the same faces he had run into at every business event, every town meeting. It started to chip away at his hardened heart. "You think I don't want what's best for her?" His voice cracked slightly, betraying a touch of vulnerability. "Sometimes what you want isn't what's best, Bill," a voice from the crowd countered. It was Ben, a farmer who had witnessed struggles of his own. "Love is about trust, not chains. You have to let her go to find her way. Bill took a step back, as if struck. For a moment, his bravado faltered, revealing a man caught between fear and love. The storm was raging, but within him, a quiet tempest was stirring. Emily moved towards her father, each step deliberate. "Dad, I know you love me. But this isn't love. You've kept me sheltered, but I need to grow. Just let me take that chance." Bill's mouth opened, trying to form words that were caught in his throat. Thoughts raced through his mind, memories of her laughter, the moments she had cherished, and the crushing fear of not being able to protect his only daughter. As the rain dripped down, the crowd held its breath. Jake watched, hoping for a breakthrough. Hope and worry intertwined in his gut. Would Bill understand? Would he finally realize that love is not about possession but about freedom? The first raindrop of change fell as Bill's shoulders slumped, a shield he had worn for far too long starting to crack. I don't want to lose you, Emily," he choked out, pain lacing his words. Silence fell again, and in that moment, a deep emotional wave washed over everyone. Would they witness a father embracing a new understanding? Would Emily finally feel the strength surge within her, free from the restraints of expectation? But just then, before anyone could respond, a loud clap of thunder echoed across the field, shaking the ground beneath them. Something shifted in the mood, a ripple of unease passing through the crowd. "What is happening?" A voice wondered from the back, anxiety rising. Jake turned to Bill, who was visibly struggling, caught between his past and an uncertain future. The moment stretched out like fragile glass. It was a moment where everything could change, or everything could shatter. As the sky erupted with lightning again, illuminating their faces in stark relief, it left a question hanging: would Bill choose his daughter's happiness over his fears? The answer lay on the edge, teetering towards an unpredictable conclusion in the midst of growing storm clouds. And in that charged atmosphere, the possibilities hung heavy in the air, waiting for that fateful choice. Bill's heart raced like the storm overhead, drowning out any rational thought. He looked at Emily, at her hopeful eyes, brimming with determination. It was as if he was seeing her for the first time, not as his little girl needing protection, but as a woman ready to soar. "How can I trust you'll be safe?" he murmured, his voice barely above the thunder's roar, feeling helpless against the tide of change. "Dad, it's not about keeping me safe anymore," she pleaded, her own voice breaking. "It's about trusting me to find my own way." The air was thick, charged with years of pent-up emotions, both his and hers. Bill could feel the weight of every conversation they had avoided pressing down on him, not just their conflict but a lifetime of moments when he had clung too tightly. Behind him, the crowd shifted, their eyes focused, their faces painted with concern and hope. Ben stepped closer, the protector of the land, embodying the town's collective spirit. "She's got to live her life, Bill. If you hold her back, you might lose her forever, not to the world, but to your own fear." Bill's gaze drifted back to the horizon, dark clouds swirling, reflecting the turmoil within him. Could he really let go? The thought of Emily walking away was like a wound reopening each time he imagined it. She was his anchor. Without her, what would he become? "This isn't just about you and me," Emily pressed. "It's about the future. I want to make my own mistakes, learn from them. You can't keep pretending you know what's best for me. It's suffocating." As she spoke, the rain began to pour again, cascading around them in a fierce shower. Each drop seemed to echo the sentiment of freedom Emily cried out for. She extended her hand, opening herself up to him, a gesture of vulnerability and strength combined. "Take my hand, Dad. Let us step into the storm together." Bill felt something shift within him, like clouds parting for the first light of dawn. "You want to leave, don't you?" His tone was calm now, reassurance hiding behind the fragility of his heart. "I want to live," she replied, her voice steady. "Please, just let me." His mind raced back through the years, her childhood days of laughter, her first heartbreak, all the moments he thought were protective but were actually part of a cage he had built for her. He shivered at the realization he had mistaken control for love. With a shaky breath, he felt the grip of his fears loosening. I don't want to lose you," he finally said, the storm raging above matching the conflict in his chest, but he saw Emily there, unwavering, ready to step forward. Just then, lightning split the sky again, and by some miracle, it felt like a sign, a call to action. "Emily," he said, stepping closer, the ground beneath them soaked and slick with rain. "I'm terrified. But I trust you." As the rain fell harder, a stunned silence enveloped them. The crowd collectively caught their breath, realizing the shift happening before their eyes. A father was not rejecting his daughter but was choosing to support her grudgingly, but at last, genuinely. A bond was beginning to form anew. But as relief washed over Jake, another clap of thunder rumbled through just as a distant scream broke the moment's spell. "Help! There's something wrong." The frantic voice of a nearby townsman shook everyone awake from their celebration of clarity. Bill's expression hardened, shifting abruptly from vulnerability to protectiveness once more. "What now?" he barked, scanning the crowd. Jake felt the wave of tension shift again, and suddenly, what had been a moment of breakthrough now teetered on the edge of chaos. "Something's wrong." As they turned towards the source of the panic, a sense of dread crept back in, weaving through their emotions like a dark thread in an otherwise shining tapestry. What new storm loomed ahead, and could they weather it together? The crowd erupted into chaos, and Bill's instincts kicked in. He pushed past the people gathered around him, fear gnawing at the edges of his resolve. Emily followed closely, eyes wide with a mix of fear and curiosity. "What's happening?" She called out to the townsmen who had cried for help, but the rain drowned her words, making them feel lost before they even left her lips. The man pointed down the road, his face pale and filled with urgency. "It's Mark. He's in the barn." Bill's heart twisted. Mark, the young farmer who lived a few plots down, had always been someone to lean on, a friend. "What's wrong with him?" he shouted back, dread pooling in his stomach. "He's trapped." The barn roof collapsed. The man took a step forward, rain streaming down his face as he searched for support in the crowd. Without another thought, Bill was moving, his feet splashing through puddles, determination replaced with adrenaline. The barn was only a short distance away, but in this storm, it felt like an eternity. Emily kept pace, refusing to fall behind. Bill glanced at her, ready to tell her to stay back, but the fierce resolve in her eyes silenced him. The thunder roared, but Bill felt a new energy coursing through him. He wasn't just stepping into the storm of physical rain, he was stepping into the storm of life itself, where fear could either paralyze or propel you forward. As they reached the barn, the sight was dire. Wooden beams lay strewn about like fallen trees, debris scattered in every direction. Mark's faint cries emerged from beneath a pile of wood and straw. "Help! I can't move." Bill's heart raced in a different way, now one filled with purpose. "Emily, help me clear this," he shouted. Together they pushed against the heavy timbers while the townspeople gathered around, some holding flashlights, others calling out encouragement. "Keep going." Emily grunted, her determination mirroring Bill's. He could barely contain the swell of pride he felt watching her dive into this attempt to save someone. In this moment of chaos, she was showing the courage he had been so afraid to acknowledge. They removed a beam, grunting under the weight. It was hard work, muscles straining, but Bill felt a sense of liberation with each movement. "We're almost there, Mark," Emily cried out. But then, as Bill lifted a larger piece of timber, he heard a sickening creak. "Watch out!" he yelled, diving back instinctively, but he couldn't react quickly enough. The structure shifted, and suddenly it wasn't just Mark in danger. More portions of the barn threatened to buckle as debris fell toward them. "Get back!" he shouted. Emily hesitated for a split second, unsure whether to flee or stay. He reached for her, wanting to drag her away. "Run!" "No!" She shot back, eyes blazing. "You're not leaving me behind." Bill gritted his teeth, fury and admiration fusing within him. In this storm, somewhere between fear and refusal to let each other go, Emily was becoming the brave woman she wanted to be. They shoved aside another piece of debris, adrenaline making them bolder, but with every second, more rain began pouring through the gaps above, soaking them to the bone. Almost there. Mark's voice was strained but desperate. Just then, Bill spotted something behind Emily, a loose beam twisting precariously above her head. Heart in his throat, he lunged instinctively, shouting, "Emily!" The world seemed to slow as the beam began to fall. Would he be able to reach her in time? A moment hung in the balance. Discoveries weren't just built in silence, they were forged in chaos. "Turn!" He screamed, terror filling his voice as he realized he might not be quick enough. The storm raged on, echoing the turmoil of their hearts, and in that moment, Bill knew another kind of truth: love and sacrifice often walked hand in hand. Would he save Emily in time, or would he have to face losing her while finally letting her go? Time stretched in the chaos as Bill lunged towards Emily, his heart pounding with a fierce urgency. The barn creaked and groaned under the relentless assault of the storm. As he reached for her, his fingers brushed against her shoulder just as she spun around, eyes wide with shock. "Duck!" he hollered, every muscle tensed, ready for impact. Emily fell to the ground, and a fraction of a second later, the beam crashed down, splintering against the floorboards. Dust and droplets exploded into the air, mingling with the harsh scent of wet hay. The crowd gasped, their voices freezing as the scene unfolded. "Bill!" Emily cried from the dirt, her voice barely above a whisper. Panic flickered in his chest, but he willed himself to stay focused. "I'm right here." He could see her now, wide-eyed and unscathed, but that didn't matter right now. What mattered was Mark, still trapped beneath the wreckage. "Mark!" Bill shouted, desperation making his voice rough. "Help! I'm stuck, I can't." Mark's voice faltered, pained and muffled. Bill's mind raced. They'd moved some debris, but how long could Mark last under all that weight? The sound of the storm was relentless, drowning everything else out. A new surge of adrenaline propelled him forward, and he grabbed another heavy beam. "Help me, Emily!" She scrambled back up to her feet, eyes still locked on him. "What do you need me to do?" "Just hold this." He thrust it toward her, planting it against the fallen structure. She nodded, determination radiating as she pushed against it with all her might. Bill could feel the weight of the task ahead. Each movement felt like pushing against the storm itself, a swaying balance between hope and despair. With every ounce of strength, he heaved at the debris, grunting under the pressure. The townspeople gathered closer now, sensing the desperation. "We're here, Bill. We'll help." They urged, a collective strength forming from their worried whispers. "Keep clearing," he yelled. "We have to get him out." He focused on Mark's cries, blocking out how much pain he felt each time debris shifted or creaked ominously. Suddenly, something in the air changed. The rain slowed, a stillness settling over the barn for a heartbeat. Bill locked eyes with Emily, their breaths unsteady. Together. They were two halves of the same drive, pulsing with the determination to save a life. With one mighty effort, they shoved away enough wood to reveal a glimpse of Mark's frightened face. "Bill! I can see you." Mark's voice cracked, hope seeping into his tone amidst the fear. "We've got you," Emily called, her voice fierce with encouragement. "Just hold on a little longer." Bill felt the strength of unity in the moment, the townspeople joining in, each grasping a piece of the fallen barn, pushing, pulling, lifting together. Then, it happened. The last beam shifted, groaning under pressure, before stone-cold silence enveloped them all. The weight evaporated, and with a final grunt, they pushed the last piece free. "Mark!" Bill gasped, his heart galloping. But the silence pressed down heavy, the anticipation so thick he could almost taste it. "Get him out!" someone shouted, and hands shot down to pull Mark free. He was covered in dirt and debris, his face smeared but alive. They lifted him out, relief flooding over them like the rain that still drizzled from the roof. But it wasn't just a rescue. As Bill locked eyes with Emily, a wave of new understanding washed over him. This wasn't merely about saving a friend, it was about the ties that held them all together even in the darkest storms. Just as they caught their breath, the ground shuddered, and with a thunderous crack, another section of the barn collapsed behind them. They turned, eyes wide, heartbeats racing. "Run!" someone yelled into the chaos. Bill and Emily exchanged a look, ready to leap into action. "We're not done yet," she declared fiercely, and he felt every ounce of strength swell within him. But as they sprinted back towards the second barn, a shadow loomed in the storm, something Bill hadn't noticed before, something that flickered around the edge of the chaos. What began in a moment of danger was about to unravel deeper truths. What had they truly stepped into this storm to face? The ground trembled beneath their feet as Bill and Emily dashed towards the fading light of the second barn. The air was thick with the smell of churned earth and the sting of rain. Each step felt weighed down with the urgency of their survival. "What was that shadow?" Emily shouted, pushing her hair back from her drenched face. Fear etched deeply in her features. "I don't know." Bill grunted, eyes darting around. "But we can't stop now." He spotted the second barn looming ahead, its structure old yet somewhat familiar, almost a comforting sight amid the chaos. As they burst through the doors, the scene within was surreal. Flickering lights illuminated the hay scattered on the floor, revealing old barrels stacked carelessly in the corners. Shadows danced around them, spotlighting every crevice. "Over here." Emily pointed, her voice cutting through the din of the storm. She sprinted to where the wall had partially collapsed. "We can take shelter here." They wriggled behind the debris, hearts racing. Bill's mind raced with thoughts: Mark, the people at the barn, and now this new threat looming. The storm had unmasked dangers he hadn't even considered. "What do we do if it comes for us?" Emily's breath came in quick bursts, her hand trembling as she clutched a piece of wood. It was a barrier now, but the fear in her eyes cut deeper than the debris around them. "We just hold on. We can't let it win," he said, though deep down, doubt gnawed at him. He was a farmer, not a fighter. Yet, in this moment, the urge to protect flickered fiercely inside him. Just then, another crash resonated from the outer walls, a loud roar of reinforced wood creaking under nature's fury. The shadow moved closer, close enough now that Bill could sense its weight, its presence pressing down, almost suffocating. Then the shape became clearer, a figure wrapped in darkness, shifting as it approached. "Hello," Bill called out, surprise and a strange wave of recognition cutting through the panic. "Bill." The voice was familiar but distorted, laced with dread. "Dad?" Bill's heart sank. This couldn't be his father. The man he remembered was lost in the fog of time, buried under years of bitterness. "Yes, son, come out. It's safer out here." Emily's hand clutched his tighter as Bill took a hesitant step forward. "What are you doing here?" "Why now?" "Because I had to make things right." The figure shifted into the light, revealing a face lined with age and regret. Everything inside him screamed to turn back. There was anger, a mix of betrayal and unresolved pain flashing in his mind. "You can't just appear after all this time. You left us." I know," his father replied, voice trembling. "But I need you to trust me." The rumble of the storm was an unrelenting backdrop as the tension hung thick in the air. Bill's chest tightened, caught between the storm raging outside and the storm unresolved within. Emily searched his eyes, the confusion mirrored there. "What do we do? We can't let the storm take us." He looked back at his father, conflict swirling in his chest. Could he trust this man after so many years? What if this was just another trap? Suddenly, the ground jolted hard beneath them, violent and ready to split. "We have to make a choice," Bill yelled, desperation echoing in his voice. "Bill, we can't let this ruin us," Emily shouted back, grounding him. "We move forward. Together." He stood between the shadows of the past and the urgency of the present, trying to unravel the threads of fear. But that choice loomed closer with each stormy heartbeat. Could he let go of everything holding him back? Would confronting this shadow bring the truth to light, or was it destined to drown them all? As the walls shook violently again, a final thought pressed in: what kind of storm would he let define him? With a swift decision, he took a step forward. "I'm ready to face the truth." "But are you?" The shadow flickered, revealing uncertain eyes that gazed back. Was this the moment they would finally confront what was buried? Would their past crack wide open amidst the turmoil, or was this just the beginning of another storm? Bill's breath caught in his throat as he stepped closer to the figure swathed in shadow. Questions spiraled through his mind, but none came out. The storm's rage surrounded them, a heart-pounding drumbeat mirroring his racing heart. "Is this really you? After everything?" Bill's voice wavered between disbelief and a desperate need for answers. "Yes, it's me," his father said, the tremor in his tone hard to ignore. "I know I've made mistakes, and now there's no more time." Emily, still gripping the makeshift weapon tightly, looked between the two men, her brow furrowed in confusion. "What does that mean? What's happening?" The barn creaked under the growing storm, and his father lifted his hands as if to calm both of them. "I came to warn you. The darkness out there, it's not just the storm. It's bigger than that. And if we don't confront it together, it'll consume everything we care about." The weight of those words sank into Bill's heart. It felt surreal, like he was standing at the edge of a familiar cliff, about to jump into an abyss of uncharted waters. "Why now?" Bill asked, the ache of years unspoken clawing at him. "You had your chance to be here, to be a father. You can't just waltz in and expect everything to be okay." I know. But this isn't about me. It's about you, and your future. Please, I'm begging you. We need to face what's coming together," his father pleaded. The shadows around them twisted unnaturally, almost as if the darkness breathed in response. For a moment, Bill felt the cold fingers of terror squeeze him tight, and he glanced at Emily, whose steadfast gaze brought a flicker of strength. "Together," Emily echoed, her voice steady, yet soft. Bill kept his eyes locked on his father. He could feel years of resentment surging within him. But the urgency of the situation pressed hard on his chest. "What do you know?" "I've seen the shadows. They're tied to our family, to things we never spoke about. The pain, the distrust, it's all connected," his father replied. "You were too young to understand. We can only break the cycle if we face it as a family." Bill's thoughts raced. Growing up, he'd always felt the weight of his father's absence, the ghost of missed opportunities hovering over him. Now, staring into the man's eyes, he could see the depths of regret swirling inside. "Maybe I can't change what you did," Bill said, anger bubbling just beneath the surface. "But I'm not going to let whatever this is take Emily or anything else away from me. Not again." As they spoke, the sound of wood snapping echoed ominously outside, intensifying. There was no more time for lingering in pain and old wounds. This was a different kind of storm, one he had to face head-on. "Will you trust me, Bill?" his father whispered desperately. "This isn't just for us, we need to protect those we love. If we stand together, maybe we can break free." Bill felt the weight of the world press on his shoulders. Could he really trust this man? Could he allow himself to be vulnerable after years of hurt? Emily's presence offered a lifeline, grounding him, and with that, a spark of hope ignited in the depths of his heart. "All right," he finally said, voice firm. But you need to be honest with me. No more lies, no more shadows. His father nodded, relief washing over his features, but a new intensity filled the space. The storm outside roared louder, a ferocious beast ready to burst forth. Behind them, the flickering lights of the barn started to dim, shadows swirling ominously at the edges. Bill realized they weren't alone. The presence from before was still lurking, and it wouldn't wait any longer. Now, Bill said as he steadied his gaze, let us find out what's hiding out there. As they readied themselves to confront whatever lay beyond the barn doors, the storm broke loose, revealing more than just turbulent winds. Bill felt the weight of past wounds mixed with the strength of future possibilities. But the question lingered. What would they uncover in the heart of this storm? Would they find healing, or would the darkness claim them all over again? As the storm howled outside, drowning out all thoughts but the urgent necessity to act, Bill, his father, and Emily braced themselves. Bill pushed open the barn doors, the force of the wind nearly knocking him off his feet. The air was thick with rain, each drop feeling like the weight of the world crashing down. Stay close, he instructed, turning back to his father and Emily. They nodded, each knowing this was not the time for fear. The storm was a backdrop to something more sinister, something that bubbled just below the surface. Once outside, visibility was low. The lightning periodically slashed through the darkness, illuminating twisted trees and tumultuous skies. The shadows danced erratically, teasing the edges of his mind, and Bill couldn't shake the feeling they were being watched. What do we do now? Emily asked, her voice barely audible over the wind. A firm resolve mixed with an undercurrent of fear knitted her brow. Follow me, Bill said, taking a deep breath as he led them further from the barn. We need to find the old well. It's said to be a place where things happen. The darkness, it feels connected to it somehow. Bill's father looked wary. The well. That's where exactly, Bill cut in, frustration bubbling up. That's where secrets were buried, and where they probably still are. They stumbled through the rough terrain. Each step felt weighted, but as Bill moved, a strange exhilaration began to build within him, the unity of their purpose igniting old, dormant fires of hope. They were a team now. As they reached the well, Bill paused, sheer terror intermingling with an odd sense of familiarity. The stones circling the well were slick with rain, and the ground beneath his feet was mushy, alive with the storm's fury. He knelt, examining the contours of the well's mouth, memories bubbling to the surface. Years ago, he had peered into this very spot, hearing whispers that sent chills down his spine. What are we looking for? Emily whispered, her eyes scanning the dark interior of the well. Answers, Bill replied, a determination lighting his face. He glanced at his father, whose weathered expression mirrored the storms raging inside. We need to confront whatever has been haunting us. Suddenly, the ground trembled, shaking under their feet. Bill stumbled, grabbing onto the rough stones of the well for support, and fear flashed across Emily's face. They all shared a knowing glance, realizing the disturbance was not from the storm but from something much deeper, something unsettlingly alive. His father took a step forward. Bill, the truth lies not just in facing the shadows but in understanding them. With a deep breath, Bill summoned every ounce of courage. Let us look inside, he said, peering into the pitch blackness of the well. He began to feel a pull, an insistent draw, as if someone was urging them closer. As he leaned in, a voice broke through the chaos, muffled yet clear. Bill helped, his heart raced. The voice felt familiar yet fractured, a remnant of something long buried. He exchanged frantic looks with Emily and his father. Did you hear that? He breathed, straining to catch another glimpse, another word. Yes, Emily replied, her voice a mere breath. We have to find out who it is. But who could it be? And what lay waiting in the dark depths of the well? The storm seemed to pulse, mirroring their growing anticipation, urging them on. Bill sensed that they stood on the edge of a revelation that would change everything, a chance to break free, to confront not only the shadows outside but the shadows within. "Ready or not, we have to face this together," Bill said firmly. "Let us get to the bottom of it." As the wind howled louder, swirling chaos around them, a shadowy figure suddenly emerged from the well's darkness, reaching up, drawing them into a world where fear and truth intertwined. What had been unspoken for so long was now on the verge of being unearthed. Would they be ready for what it revealed? The shadowy figure began to rise from the depths. Bill felt a chill race down his spine as he recognized the familiar face. It was his sister, Sarah, lost to family discord and buried truths. Her eyes held anger, longing, and something else, an urgency that pulled at Bill's heart. "Bill," she croaked, voice rasping like the wind. "I need your help." He blinked in disbelief, struggling to reconcile the reality before him. "Sarah?" His words barely escaped his lips, heavy with confusion. "How? Why? Remember the darkness?" she asked, her voice trembling. "It's deeper than you know. You need to understand before it consumes you all." Emily stepped closer, her grip on Bill's hand tightening as she searched Sarah's face, drawn into this unexpected family reunion. "What do you mean?" "There's history here," Sarah continued, her expression shifting from fear to fierce determination. "You can't escape the shadows. They're tied to our past. And if you let them define you, they will tear everything apart. Tell us." Bill urged, heart racing with desperation, "What are we facing?" The storm seemed to respond, the winds howling as if inviting the answer. Sarah's gaze turned somber as she took a deep breath. "You have to face the truth together, united. The fractures in our family created a fissure, and it's been festering for years. You both feel it, the pain of silence, the burden of unspoken expectations. It's time to break the cycle." Bill looked back at his father, who stood silent and still, eyes glazed with old regrets. This was a conversation that had never taken place, a reckoning long overdue. "It's not just the storm outside. The storms in our hearts are what can truly drown us," Sarah concluded, her voice steady, determined to push through the darkness overshadowing them. Bill glanced at Emily, her strength anchoring him. "This is it," he whispered, determination igniting within him. "We have to face it. The only way past it is through it," Emily echoed softly, squeezing his hand tighter. Suddenly, the ground shook violently, threatening to swallow them whole. "We can't let fear take over," Bill shouted, sudden resolve coursing through him. "Are we ready to uncover the truth?" His father stepped forward, heart pounding. "Together, we can," he murmured, his voice trembling as memories cascaded from the shadows. "I let my fears dictate everything. I didn't protect you. I kept the truth buried instead of confronting it." Bill's chest tightened. It wasn't just their past, it was a call to arms for the future. "We've got to connect," he said firmly, locking eyes with his father. "No more hiding from each other." With an overwhelming force of will, Bill reached forward. He grasped Sarah's hand, feeling the ripple of connection surge through him. His father stepped closer and took hold of Bill's other hand, then, finally, Emily, joining the circle. "We birth hope from this confusion," he proclaimed. As they formed a chain, electricity surged through the air, merging their fears and aspirations. The chaos surrounding them quieted, the storm now a mere backdrop to their unified strength. They stood as one, hearts pounding in unison. In one single breath, they took a step closer, drawing upon each other's courage. As shadows flickered and swirled, memories flooded before them, memories of laughter, joy, and also deep hurts that splintered their unity. But within those moments lay power. Power to transform pain into understanding, confusion into clarity. Bill heard a fierce whisper across the howling winds. "Face the shadows," a call resonating through generations. With a roaring defiance, they shouted together, "We choose love. We choose connection. We are more than our fears." As their voices fused, the storm rumbled, but this time with harmony rather than chaos. Lightning unveiled a pathway through the storm, lighting the darkness that had encased them. Time stretched in that charged atmosphere, the air thick with possibilities. Bill released the grip of the past, allowing forgiveness to become a sanctuary. No longer were they caged by fears, they now stood free, ready to face every consequence with courage. The light shimmered brighter, enveloping them in warmth as the shadows released their hold. Together, we will navigate any storm, Bill vowed. And in that moment, they embraced the depths of vulnerability, an epic shift toward renewal, a family untethered from past pains, welcoming the dawn of a brighter tomorrow. As the storm finally subsided and the light broke free, Bill felt an overwhelming emotion wash over him. This was the rebirth that had been waiting all along, a journey toward understanding, love, and unity. With a shared glance and newfound strength, there was no doubt their future would be bright, and this was only the beginning. If you've witnessed their incredible transformation, now is the time to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss the next exclusive stories that inspire hope and change. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let everyone join this journey of transformation. And comment below your reactions and feelings about this touching ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.